Welcome back to the English 360 podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mia. Have you ever tried to assemble a piece of IKEA furniture by skipping the confusing steps only to watch the whole thing collapse hours later? Or maybe you tried to cook a complicated recipe by substituting a dozen ingredients?
That universal human urge, the desire to achieve maximum results with minimum effort, is perfectly captured in a single, powerful English idiom. We're talking about the phrase that is almost always a warning.
To cut corners. This isn't just about taking shortcuts. It's about sacrificing quality, safety, or procedure for the sake of speed or money. Today, we're going on a deep dive. We'll cover the literal origin of the phrase, its moral weight in business and life, and we will share a story of when Alex tried to cut a corner so disastrously that it involved a pigeon, a lot of paint, and a very angry landlord.
I'm already regretting this, but it's a necessary lesson in fluency. If you want to use English like a pro and avoid the disasters this phrase describes, you need to stay until the end.
Deconstructing the core meaning and warning. Let's start with the definition. To cut corners means to perform a task or produce something in the quickest, easiest, or cheapest way, usually by omitting necessary steps, ignoring rules, or sacrificing quality or safety.
Notice the key negative implication. This phrase is rarely a compliment. It's a polite way of saying, you are being lazy and the result will be trash. Example, the construction company cut corners by using cheap materials and now the roof leaks. Example, you shouldn't cut corners on your research paper. A high grade requires thorough work.
This phrase is so strong because it conjures a clear visual image. Imagine a perfect square corner on a city sidewalk. The proper way to turn is to walk all the way to the corner and make a neat 90-degree turn.
Cutting the corner means walking diagonally across the grass or the dirt to shorten your path. It saves 2 seconds, but it wears down the grass, creates mud, and shows you disregarded the design.
That visual perfectly captures the essence of the idiom, a small, selfish shortcut that degrades the system.
The literal origin and historical weight. For historical depth, let's look at where this phrase actually comes from. Its origin is definitively linked to travel and racing in the 19th century, specifically with horse-drawn carriages and hunting.
When a coachman driving a carriage came to a sharp corner in a town, if they turned too early, if they cut the corner, the rear wheel of the carriage could clip the curb, potentially damaging the wheel or even overturning the entire vehicle.
The risk was high. Therefore, the phrase immediately carried the meaning, taking the easy path is dangerous. In hunting and early motorsports, skilled riders and drivers were praised for not cutting corners, as it meant they were adhering to the proper, safer line. This historical context gives the phrase its moral weight, as it is a violation of established safe practice.
The core lesson is the shortest distance is not always the quickest or the best. Cutting corners is often an ethical issue in business. Companies are accused of cutting corners on environmental standards or worker safety to boost profits.
This is why the phrase is so powerful in contemporary professional English. It connects an everyday idiom to a serious critique of integrity. The pitfalls. When cutting corners backfires. The high cost.
The irony of cutting corners is that it usually creates more work in the long run. Let's look at two common scenarios where the shortcut becomes the longest path.
This is the most common home scenario. You are trying to install a new shelf. The manual says you need a level and anchor bolts. You think, I'll just skip the anchors and eyeball the level. It's faster.
Result? The shelf is crooked, and 2 days later, when you put your antique vase on it, the entire shelf rips out of the wall. The 2 hours you saved have now turned into a day of drywall repair, replacing the vase, and starting the shelf installation all over again, this time using the anchors.
In the professional world, this is deadly. Your team is under a tight deadline to release a software update. The project manager decides to cut corners by skipping the final comprehensive quality assurance, QA, testing.
The software launches on time, but it's full of bugs. You get hundreds of customer complaints, and the engineering team has to pull all-nighters to fix the flaws. The initial time saved by cutting corners on testing results in massive damage to the company's reputation and more time spent fixing the mess. An anecdote: Alex and the Great Pigeon Paint Job.
Okay, Mia, I'm ready. As a cautionary tale of why you should never cut corners in home maintenance, I present the story of the Great Pigeon Paint Job.
I'm terrified already. This sounds expensive.
It was. A few years ago, I decided I wanted to paint the exterior window trim on my second-floor apartment. I lived in a building that had a slightly damaged gutter right above my window, a place where pigeons like to sit and observe the world. The painting required a ladder, which I didn't own.
So, what corner did you cut? Did you try to balance on a stack of encyclopedias?
Worse, I decided I could do it using the long handle roller and a step stool placed on a table. The first corner I cut was safety, obviously. The second corner I cut was preparation. I skipped cleaning the trim first, figuring the paint would just cover the dirt.
You are a menace to property standards. Please continue.
So I'm on my table, reaching with this ridiculously long roller, slapping white paint all over the dark gray trim. I'm almost done, feeling triumphant. I saved money on the ladder rental when disaster struck. The pigeon, who usually sat on the broken gutter, was very unhappy with my presence.
Oh no. The avian security guard.
He decided to take evasive action, which involved launching himself directly from the gutter. As he launched, his foot caught the edge of the broken gutter, flipping a small pool of stagnant, muddy water and some other questionable debris directly onto my freshly painted, still wet trim.
Oh no. That's poetic justice. The universe punishing you for your laziness.
Not only did I have a dirty stripe across the beautiful white trim, but the noise startled me and I lost my balance. My step stool went flying and the bucket of white paint, thankfully mostly empty, flipped over the balcony railing.
Did it hit anyone? Please tell me it didn't hit anyone.
No, thank goodness. It splattered all over the perfectly manicured rose bushes of the landlord's favorite garden gnome display.
So by cutting the corner and saving $20 on a ladder, you ended up having to clean up a paint-splattered garden, repaint the entire trim, and apologize profusely to a landlord who only communicated using the phrase, "I'm disappointed in you."
Exactly. The shortcut cost me 3 hours of cleaning, a full day of repainting the right way with a rented ladder,
and a month of passive-aggressive notes about the state of the rose bushes, the cost of cutting corners was exponentially higher than doing the job right the first time.
That story should be in a textbook titled, Why Quality Matters. Now that we know the danger, let's explore the language around it.
It's used to criticize or warn. Warning: be careful not to cut corners on your financial due diligence. Criticism: they delivered the project quickly, but you can tell they cut corners on the presentation design. Defense: I refuse to cut corners. Our product will be the best on the market.
Sometimes you need a different word. The phrase to skimp on means to use too little of a resource. To take the easy way out means to choose the least difficult option, often avoiding responsibility. And if the work is done too quickly, you call it a rush job.
Pronunciation and delivery of the warning. When you deliver this phrase, the stress is key to conveying the warning. The sound should be sharp and decisive.
We've seen that cutting corners is a linguistic shorthand for saying, beware of the consequences of laziness. From 19th century carriage drivers to my unfortunate skirmish with a pigeon, the message remains the same. The shortcut is often the longest route.
Your fluency grows when you understand the depth of these phrases. Now you know the literal origin, the moral weight, and how to use it perfectly.
Time for your final challenge. Think of a time you or someone you know cut corners and it completely backfired. Share your story in the comments using the phrase, "Who cut corners?" and what was the funny or disastrous high cost?
Don't cut corners, do the work.
Bye for now.